Hello folks, welcome to our canal de Channel Jose. Today we're gonna show you or give you an idea how problems merge from in your car. You're driving down the road and there's suddenly a malfunction. A light comes on in the dash, or you start hearing a noise, but you don't know what's going on the car, because then you gotta pull over. You gotta start an assessment of what's going on with the car. So for that, we're gonna break down. We got three different worlds on this board. So problems on a car. How does a problem occur on a car? And sometimes we just know that there's something wrong with the car, but we don't know exactly what it is. So we have break it down in three different topics. So there's three basic. We have simplified it to three different worlds. We have mechanical, we have electrical, and then we have hydraulics. Mechanical is everything that can make friction or noise. On the electrical is everything that is 12 volts, or it can send signal to a component, a sensor, computer, lights, all that stuff. Hydraulics is anything that it uses like motor oil, power steering, fuel systems. So, and there's brake systems and everything that uses fluids and oils is considered under hydraulics. It's not exactly hydraulics, but it falls under oils and fluids. That's this circle on the black side. That's what it is. So for the mechanical, we have put a purple circle, and that's friction, or anything, a body that pulls or turns another physical body with a force. That's mechanical. So so that'll be gears, brakes, engine. So all those components that are actually physically touching each other and making a force to move, or like the pistons up and down, all the internals, the gears, timing belts, CB axles, from the engine all the way to the wheels, all the physical force that is being produced, it has some sort of friction, and it has mechanical torque into it. So there's also the electrical side. This is the 12 volt signals, like we said. So that will be the lights, charging system, starting, anything that consumes 12 volts or needs a signal to operate. That's considered on the electrical side. So how these three worlds can create a problem on the car. When a problem merges on your car and there's something going on, there's something not right on the car, and to find out, you're gonna have to find out if it's mechanical, hydraulic, or electrical. For example, you got an overheating on a car that can create a mechanical problem. But the overheating, what's causing the overheating? Is a lack of fluid. So what would you do is you will let the car cool down, you check the fluids. If it needs fluid, you add coolant. So that will be, these two will be interacting with each other, fluid with mechanical. So what's the problem? So is it a bad water pump? Is it a bad thermostat? Is it a clogged radiator? Is it the cap on the radiator is bad? That's mechanical stuff. So, but if the mechanical side is failing, it's creating a hydraulic problem. It's overheating, fluids are getting too hot, engine is getting too hot, mechanical stuff. So it's a back and forth fight. So we got fluids and mechanical interacting, which you gotta find out what's causing the problem between these two guys. Mechanical, is it, like we said, a water pump, or is it lack of fluids? That's why they interact with each other. So mechanical and fluids are interacting on this side. What about if fluids and electrical interact to each other? For example, so you got oil on your engine, motor oil, to operate the engine, so there's no friction. So otherwise it will create a mechanical problem. But before we get to the mechanical problem, we have oils. So for example, you're driving down the road and the oil light comes on the dash. So it's telling you that the electrical has sent a signal, or a sensor has picked up a low pressure engine oil in the engine. So now you get a light in the dash telling you, hey, there's oil problem. So you pull over and then you check your fluids. So now you're checking for oil level on your engine and you find out that the oil is good. So now the light, the warning light, which is operated by a sensor with 12 volts, is reading low oil pressure. So now the oil level is good. So what's causing the oil light to come on? So you went and verified the oil is good. So now you gotta verify that is a bad oil pump, or what's causing this light to come on. So one guides to another, and then that one guides to another. So you gotta troubleshoot where the problem starts. So if a light came on, you start verifying the next thing, the oil. So these three worlds, mechanical, electrical, and hydraulics, they interact, all three, so the car would operate on a normal operational system. So you got no misfires, you got no problems. So every single side of the aisle is doing their job to get the job done, to get the engine running with no problems. But if there's a mechanical issue, then that guy is gonna affect the electrical or hydraulics. For example, how does hydraulics and mechanical apply on the brake system? Okay, so you're driving down the road and hydraulics needs to be activated by a physical force by mechanical. So you start on the brakes. So you need to slow your car down on the freeway. So what you do, you push your brake pedal, which is a mechanical physical force that you're pushing into the pedal. In the engine compartment, there's a components that they create hydraulic pressure into a line. So you use mechanical to create hydraulic pressure on the brakes, and then that hydraulic pressure goes to the wheel, and it actually makes a piston pushed out or clamped down into the brake pads, and the brake pads actually touch the rotor, which is actually friction. So you're going back and forth, and then once you apply the brakes, the hydraulic does its job, and then it goes from hydraulic back to piston, brakes, rotor, slow down the car. So you go mechanical, hydraulic, mechanical. That's how the sequence went. So once you release the pressure on the pedal, the mechanical stops working, the hydraulic releases the pressure to the mechanical on the wheels. So that's how those two worlds actually work, on the mechanical side and hydraulic on the brakes. And that's why it's very important to understand how your system works, because if you don't know how your systems work, then you don't know what to look for when there's a noise, or what's the normal and what's the abnormal. So if you know the normal operation of your car, then you know that something is not good when you hear the noise, and you gotta identify what's causing the noise or the problem. So it could be on the electrical, it could be power, no power, signal, no signal. That's how you verify the electrical. So you gotta verify that when you're actually turning the engine to start, you're actually applying a physical power to a button. Now in these days, a button, you press a button, and then the button sends a signal to a computer, and then the computer tries to start the car by sending power to the starter, an actual physical force that makes the engine to turn. So then the mechanical starts creating the other components to work. Fluids, pressure, electrical, so everything starts working properly. But if the electrical is not working properly, then you gotta find out if it's your battery, if it's a connection, or is electrical is good, but your mechanical part is not working properly. It could be your starter that is not working properly. It could be from an electrical to a mechanical, or it could be the mechanical piece not working on the electrical, because you could have a part that is mechanical but the electrical side of it is not working. So the mechanical is not wear down, there's no friction, there's components are all there, gears are all ready to go, but the electrical side, you might be it might be bad. They needs to be replaced. So that's why mechanical, electrical, and hydraulics, they all have to work together to get your car running. And you gotta understand that mechanical sometimes can affect the electrical, or the electrical can affect the mechanical, and as well with the mechanical on the hydraulics, or the hydraulics to the electrical. It's like the fuel system. If the fuel system needs power for the fuel pump to work as a mechanical device, so it needs power, 12 volts. So now the mechanical piece of the fuel pump actually moves inside the tank, and it creates a pressure, which is now a hydraulic. It's creating a pressure on the fluid side. So now your fuel system is actually creating a fluid pressure, hydraulic pressure into the fuel system. So the fuel injectors now electrically get a signal, and then by mechanically components they can inject the fuel by opening and close. It's like a valve. You need signal and mechanically to inject fuel into the engine. So that's why electrical, mechanical, and hydraulics apply to the fuel, to the brakes, to most of the components on the car. They utilize each other to work properly. If one is not working properly, it can affect the whole chain. That's why your car has a problem, and because one of these areas is affecting the other areas to work together. By a simple electrical problem, the mechanical and the fluids or the hydraulics are not going to work. Or even by lack of hydraulics, the mechanical is going to create friction, and the electrical is going to start telling you that there's a problem. So all these worlds are interconnected, and if they're not working properly, like we said, you're going to have a problem. If they're all doing their job, you have a normal operating car that is getting you from point A to point B, because everything's working together. So we wanted to expose and explain a little bit. We can go in detail into really deep stuff, but the basic stuff is electrical, mechanical, and hydraulics, and how they all interact with each other. And at the end, they all, in the center, they all come together to get your engine working properly. So sometimes it could be just electrical and oils not affecting the mechanical, but at one point it's going to start affecting the mechanical because there might be friction. So it starts with a small problem that can turn into a bigger problem. So that's why you always want to take a look at what's happening, because if you have a mechanical or oil or 12-volt problem, you can create a bigger problem where another component from a different field, which is mechanical, can start failing, and now you got from one has created two, and then from two it can create all three to come along and then give you a bigger problem, like a overheating. So if a water pump goes out, then you start creating overheating, sensors start coming on telling you warnings and all that, and then eventually your mechanicals are gonna fail because your engine is gonna overheat, and it's just gonna stop working because you created a problem from hydraulics to mechanical, and then it went bad. Every time I have a problem, I troubleshoot it between the two worlds that I'm looking for. If it's mechanical and hydraulics, what's the problem? Is it lack of liquid? Is it mechanical components that are not physically working? Is it power that is not making my mechanical turn to create pressure? What's the problem? So then you gotta tackle these problems from the fields, because if you just open your hood and you start looking at it, you're not going to figure anything out. You got to understand what's going on and how to isolate one part next. So it's like counting money. You got 5, 10s, and 20s. So you put the 5s here, you count it, you got 10 5s. Okay, so you continue counting 10 10s, you got them all. So then you count the 20s and you got one missing. Okay, now you know where your problem is. So that's the same thing on the cars. You got to start counting and start looking at your components individually. See, don't just overlook the whole, you got to isolate, pinpoint the problem. That's how you got to tackle these problems. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe. And if you like this video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here en el canal El Chano Jose.